You are listening to the Star Coach Podcast with Meg Rentschler, episode 31.
Welcome to Star Coaches, the show for professional coaches that brings you coaching strategies, tools, and resources. Whatever your focus or niche, take a front seat weekly as industry leaders, decision makers, and innovators share their wisdom and expertise on the ins and outs of successful coaching. Now join your host, Meg Rentschler, as she connects you with your star coaching potential.
Hi, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Meg Rentschler, executive and mentor coach, coach educator, and very proud mom. We are about to travel to Norman, Oklahoma to watch my oldest graduate from the University of Oklahoma this weekend. So shouts out to Daniel for your accomplishments. Then when we come home, we'll have Luke coming home for the summer. So my youngest just finished his freshman year at Texas Tech University, and we'll be excited to spend the summer with him. Shouts out to both boys, and it's a great time of the year. It's the end of spring, the beginning of summer, and I hope that each of you is planning something fun and adventurous and relaxing for your summer. Now, today has gotten me equally excited to share this topic with you. We are going to focus on character strength coaching. If you happen to get my emails or listen to last week's show, you know that I encouraged you to take an assessment before today's show. That assessment is the VIA Character Strength Survey. It is able to be accessed for free at viacharacter.org. That's VIA character.org. And by taking that survey, you're going to get a little more understanding of the topic today. Now, whether you choose to take the survey before our interview or after, or whether you choose not to take it at all is completely up to you, but it might give you just a little more depth to the interview today. As a whole, using assessments in coaching can be a helpful tool to help our clients gain additional insight and awareness. It's a good starting point and a place that you can continue to refer back to and focus on throughout your coaching. Whether that assessment is a strength-based assessment, a personality assessment, a behavioral assessment, a 360 assessment, there's lots of different assessments out there. But as a whole, bringing an assessment into your coaching with your client can be a nice touch point. What's nice about the VIA Character Strength Survey is that, as I said, it is a free assessment, and it's an assessment you can take yourself as a coach and certainly encourage your clients to take. Our guest today is Ryan Niemiec. Ryan is the Education Director of the VIA Institute on Character, which is a nonprofit organization in Cincinnati, Ohio, that's viewed as the global leader in advancing science and practice of character strengths. And Ryan is going to share with us what character strengths are all about and how we can use those strengths to sort of advance our own lives, as well as use them as a tool in our coaching to help spotlight strengths for our clients. Ryan is the author of a book that is soon to be released that I can't wait to get my hands on because it sounds like it's going to be an incredible resource. It's called Character Strengths Interventions, a field guide for practitioners. And he also has authored Mindfulness and Character Strengths and Positive Psychology at the Movies, two other books that are focused around those character strengths and mindfulness, different kinds of things that we can certainly use to strengthen our approach as coaches. Now, Ryan is an award-winning psychologist, a certified coach, an international workshop leader, and an adjunct professor at the University of Pennsylvania and Xavier University. You'll be able to tell from our interview with Ryan how passionate he is about character strengths and coaching and using the concept of positive psychology and character strengths to help his clients, whether those clients are coaching clients or therapy clients, just in general, how to bring forward this work to focus on human flourishing. So let's go to our interview with Dr. Ryan Niemiec. Ryan, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, it's great to be here, Meg. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I am thrilled to discuss the topic that you're an expert in, which is character strengths and how we can use those as a tool in coaching, how we can use them to bring clients new insights. So can you tell us a little bit about character strength? There's lots of different strength stuff out there, but character strengths is something specific to a specific organization. So can you fill us in a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite topics, so happy to talk as much as you like about it. So character strengths are part of our core identity. We can think of them as who we are. And so that you can think of these as capacities that we all have for thinking and feeling and behaving in certain ways. So we have capacity to think and to feel and to act with gratitude. Or we have a capacity for greater teamwork that we can build up in ourselves. We have the capacity for curiosity and creativity and these kinds of things. And so that's very different than things that we do or that we're really good at doing, like talents or our abilities or skills that we develop. All these are important types of strengths, but those would be some distinctions. In terms of this character strength work, it really came out of a 3-year project that collaboration of 55 scientists led by Marty Seligman, who's the founder of positive psychology, and Chris Peterson, who's this distinguished professor at the University of Michigan. So they led this team of 55 scientists on this journey to really discover what's best about human beings. What helps to create a flourishing life and a good life. So they scoured the research literatures and they looked at anybody that had written the text on virtue or on strength or on ethics or on flourishing, anything related to that, spanning 2,500 years, 2,600 years across all countries, all the religions, the great philosophers dating back to Aristotle and so on. And they wanted to see what they had to say about flourishing. And so they found common ingredients that are in all human beings. And so there were 24 character strengths that are found to be in all human beings. And so this was all a 3-year project that was championed and supported by the VIA Institute on Character, which is where I work. And the VIA Institute is a nonprofit organization in Cincinnati, Ohio. And our job continues to be, since it was in the early 2000s when all this work started, our job continues to be to really advance the science and the practice of these 24 character strengths. So I'm happy. So our conversation here is a way of kind of advancing the education and the practice of these character strengths. And maybe I'll distill certain research nuggets from it. And so that's advancing the research a little bit, offering some practical tools. So that's kind of what my job is. Anything that's going to help to bring that out into the whole world better.
Absolutely. And to help people understand the science behind it. I'm impressed that they went over 2,500 years in 3 years of research. I mean, you would think that would take maybe a decade, that they were able to do all that in 3 years is very impressive.
Huge project. I mean, some people still think it's the biggest project in the whole field of positive psychology. I mean, positive psychology has generated some pretty big projects in positive education and specifically in the military. But this might be the one that's kind of had the biggest impact, in terms of the world and just as an example, in this short amount of time, over 5 million people have taken the VIA survey, which is the free online instrument for measuring your character strengths. It's reached every country around the world. It's been translated into, I think we're at 36 languages now. So the impact has been quite significant in terms of bringing this into the business world, education world, coaching world, psychotherapy world, and even the consumer world. So yeah, it's very exciting. So we're still kind of really at the beginning, even though it's been going on for maybe 17 years now, but it's still quite at the beginning.
It's still in infancy, really, when you consider the scheme of how long, that psychotherapy has been in being, or even coaching. Well, coaching's kind of an infancy as well. So one of the things that you're doing to further advance the understanding and to make this maybe more usable or within our grasp is your new book. And you've got a book coming out about using character strengths as a practitioner. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So the newest book is called Character Strengths Interventions. I'll just kind of briefly mention that in previous books I've written, one called Mindfulness and Character Strengths, I tried to practically bring together the latest research and practice of mindfulness and of character strengths. And then there was a book called Positive Psychology at the Movies, where I tried to practically bring wisdom from movies and character strengths together. And we review over 1,500 movies as exemplars for these character strengths and for other elements of positive psychology. But this newer book, Character Strengths Interventions, really tries to more comprehensively look at what are the best practices in positive psychology and what are the best practices in character strengths, and how can we bring that together in a very practical way for people. So in this book, I think of it as a field guide, in that really any practitioner who's very new or advanced with this work in character strengths can pick it up and then immediately begin applying and working with the material. So like the opening several chapters are all the latest concepts and kind of research findings around character strengths, and several different, like the 7 main practical things you need to know, and the 7 main concepts that you need to know, and these kinds of things. And then another section goes through each of the 24 character strengths. And there are these one-page fact sheets or handouts, kind of snapshot views, in which on one page you get a snapshot of what's the latest research say about curiosity. What are the key concepts with curiosity? What are some exploratory questions with curiosity? What are 2 evidence-based practices with curiosity? How does curiosity look in terms of as a mind strength or a heart strength, or as an interpersonal strength or intrapersonal strength? And so it goes through all of that, literally fit on one page. And I do that for all 24 of the strengths. So very practical. Any practitioner could just photocopy that, give it to their clients.
Very applicable. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, they could have it sitting there at their desk. And then another section goes through 70 interventions with character strengths step by step. So again, most of these 70 are kind of one-page intervention activities, in which, again, it summarizes the research on that page. It summarizes the main steps you would take, troubleshooting, tips in applying it, and so on. So yeah, it's a field guide in that way. And it's been, we'll see how it goes. It comes out later this year. So
excellent.
Scheduled for around.
I will look forward to it, and I will let the audience know when it comes out as well. That's lots of fun. So just to reiterate what Ryan said, not only can you as the coach take your character strengths assessment for free, but your clients can take that assessment, share that information with you as a coach, and then you can use some of this research that's out there and the work that Ryan's done to help make that most meaningful to your clients.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great relationship builder and conversation starter, because so many coachees and clients, really have this hard wiring. I mean, all of us do this hard wiring to be deficit based and to look for problems. And so to be able to have a test that says, here's not just what you're good at, but actually what's most central to who you are. This is a valid test. This isn't just kind of some made up questions. And when you, coachee, takes this test, quickly, it'll take you 15 minutes or so. You could do that before our first session. You can do it before our third coaching session, whenever. And you'll get these free results and print them up and take a look at it. And it just changes the conversation, because then the conversation is very much about what's the evidence saying about what this unique person, this coachee, what their highest strengths are, and how might I begin that conversation with them. And you just kind of see kind of the eyes lighting up in the coachees when they look at their results, and you see the smiles perking up on their lips as they're talking about it, because it's something new. And they know that in going to see you, the coach that's doing this, they know that something maybe is different about this particular coach or this counselor or whoever. This person is really interested in who I am as an individual. So really, I think of it as a game changer in coaching work, counseling work, these kinds of things.
Excellent. What other ways might a coach use? You actually have a section in your website called Character Strengths Coaching. So if you were to kind of describe character strengths coaching, how does one coach from that perspective?
Well, it's coaching through the lens of character strengths. So as a coach is viewing themselves and viewing their client, they'd be being very tuned in to their own character strengths. So first of all, it's all about know thyself first. So the coach needs to have taken the VIA survey, know their own strengths, and be pretty savvy in exploring them, talking about them, reflecting on them. How does this make up who I am? What is the point of me being high in fairness, or me being high in the leadership strength? Or, what does it mean that I'm high in prudence, or high in humility, or appreciation of beauty and excellence, or gratitude? So to have that general knowledge about that, and then to begin applying it in one's own life just as a coach, or in one's family, in one's schooling, and so on. So that's really a key first step, is that know thyself exploration and use approach. And then once the coach is equipped and knows something about this work and applying it, then it's a matter of seeing the client through that lens. And so to be able to look at what the client is saying and the content of what they're saying, how they come into the office, the conversations you're having through that lens of strengths. So we often think of an initial step is what we call strength spotting. So that's where a coach will be on the lookout, kind of using this language as a lens for what might this particular coachee be what strength might they be using right now? And to be able to point that out in the conversations, in the problems that they discuss, in the aspirations that they have. So if a coachee is talking about a struggle that they had with their boss, and there's kind of a conflict back and forth, and they're not knowing what to do, the coach can perhaps point out maybe the coachee is using perseverance in the conversation. Maybe the coachee is using some hope, wanting to improve things. So what strengths are being used there? So that strength spotting can actually have quite a bit of mileage when it comes to this work. And then after strength spotting, I'm a big fan of this concept called signature strengths.
Uh-huh.
So this is where the coach and coachee should know what their highest of high character strengths are. So on the list of 24, what are the strengths that come out, say, in your top 5, top 7? These are called our signature strengths. These are most central to who we are, most energizing, most easy to use. And so if we can imagine looking at coachees through that lens, so I'm meeting with somebody right now that's really high in creativity, really high in gratitude, really high in bravery and perseverance, and just think of how that might change the conversation. And so those would be a couple beginning pieces that I'd suggest.
That's excellent. Now, there's different categories that VIA puts them in, like transcendence and temperance and justice and humanity, and there might be more, but those are the ones that are my top 10. So how does the categorization help maybe with understanding, or help with being able to access the strength even, maybe?
Yeah, well, it's a very holistic framework. So you have the wisdom strengths, which are kind of more cognitive or thinking oriented. So that's the creativity, curiosity, judgment, critical thinking, love of learning. So that's the thinking oriented. Then you have these humanity strengths that are more about tending and befriending, so dealing with interpersonal stuff. You have the more emotional or gut oriented strengths of courage, like bravery and perseverance. You have these kind of more spiritual oriented strengths that help us connect outside of ourselves, which are the transcendent strengths. So that's the gratitude and hope and humor. You have these community based strengths under justice. And then you have your temperance strengths, which help you to control your vices and kind of your bad habits. So strengths like self-regulation, prudence, and humility. So if we look at it, it's a very holistic scheme. So that's kind of one piece. It's just this classification kind of has that framework of how we can look at people. That was always very appealing to me, by the way, because I was always interested in helping people from multiple levels. So what we used to call a biopsychosocial spiritual level. So looking at us as physical beings, as psychological beings, emotional beings, social creatures, and spiritual beings. So looking at it from all those levels, and that we can get stuck or have struggles with any of those levels. And so we can, they all make up part of who we are. So the VIA classification, those 6 virtues that we kind of just noted, that framework really kind of helps in terms of looking at these strengths and how they categorize. Now, in terms of practical use, you were also asking about, it might be that if you target one particular strength in that particular virtue category, that can be used to boost up the other strengths more easily. So, like, for example, creativity and curiosity are both under wisdom. So certainly one could boost the other quite easily. So as you tap into your creative energy and kind of thinking outside the box, you're probably also tapping into your curiosity or exploration, and vice versa. So oftentimes we can use one of those strengths to boost the other. That might be the case for any of the 24, but in those virtue categories, there can be particularly nice synergies that happen with the strengths.
That's really helpful. So I'm sitting here listening to you, and our brains are wired to look at what's not there, right? So I'm thinking,
Exactly.
wow, wisdom wasn't even in my top 10. None of the wisdom ones were, but all 5 of the transcendence ones were in my top 10. So I'm wondering, humor and spirituality and appreciation of beauty and excellence and hope and gratitude. All 5 of those are in my top 10 strengths. So if I were your client and you're seeing that kind of sort of an approach in the top 10, what might that do for me as a client to think about or to move forward with?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, just because wisdom's not in your top 10 doesn't mean that you don't have it. Because certainly, getting to know you, you are wise. You have those strengths, and we have all 24 of the strengths within us. So it's just that some are higher in us. So something has to, if it's a rank order, something has to be higher than the other.
And you're right, they are all in there. It's just like, oh, none of them hit my top 10.
Yeah. But in terms of your transcendent, you're high in those 5 transcendence strengths. Spirituality, gratitude, appreciation of beauty and excellence, hope, and humor. So on first glance, that would mean that you probably care a whole lot about connecting with the world outside of you, connecting with the greater universe, connecting with all beings, connecting with animals, plants, other people, kind of always wanting to expand in that kind of general way. And that's these transcendent strengths. They help us to connect with the universe and to make sense of the universe in that way. So I kind of think of them very much as, depending on one's view of spirituality, you call them spiritual strengths. But, sometimes that word's not always comfortable for everybody. So certainly the words meaning and purpose would apply very nicely too, that these are kind of very meaning-based strengths as well. So that just tells me that this is such an important core part of who you are. And so then as the coach, I would really want to be kind of reinforcing those transcendent strengths and asking you about them and having that be, again, the lens, to keep using that metaphor of the lens, to be able to see anything that we talk about. Because most likely the way that you would talk, you would be probably reflecting the hope, strength, and humor and some of these things in your conversation. So then as the coach, it would be my job to point that out and feed that back to you. Because all of us, even those of us in strength psychology, those of us in positive psychology, coaching, are blind to our strengths. It's so easy to have so many blind spots that we miss the details and we don't see ourselves. There's lots of biases and we don't see ourselves accurately. So having that coach to be able to point out, hey, there's your hope strength again. There's your gratitude strength again. And then when I do that with coachees, it still stuns me how often they're like, oh, I never thought about that. And I just assumed that, they of course are seeing this, but they aren't. So we could, I make it I have a little rule for myself that in every single coaching session that I have, and mine are usually just 30 minutes, every single session, this is what I put upon myself. I must spot and reinforce at least one character strength in every single session, no matter if this person is a leader in positive psychology or if they're a young student, or an adolescent, whoever they are. So it's a little thing that I have just to kind of make sure to remind myself that there is the strength blindness in all of us, and I can help to kind of work around that and help this person to manage that a little bit.
Awesome. And what's interesting is as you were talking about the connectedness aspect, I thought to myself, and my strengths finder, very first strength is connectedness. So we can use all these different kinds of tools to help our clients gain additional awareness and keep the eye on strengths sometimes, since we're so likely to look at deficits.
Yeah, and we just have so many different types of strengths that there's so many more resources than we know. So we have skills, we have interests, we have passions, we have resources, we have talents, all these different categories. I mean, we think of the character strengths as the central piece to all those, that if we know our character strengths, that can help to actualize the other categories. So, for somebody, let's say somebody has a talent for music. They just have this ability to be just very musically inclined, and it just comes very natural to them. There's no way that they can do anything with that musical talent or music ability, if they don't tap into their character strengths of perseverance and self-regulation to practice and to keep going, to really make the most of that talent, which some experts would say it takes 10,000 to 20,000 hours over like a 10-year period to really become sort of a world-class athlete or musician. So we need the core character strengths to make our talents soar, to make our interests, our passions out there, to help tap into our resources. Yeah, but we have more resources than we know is a way to think about it.
And to help our clients understand that, and us as providers to understand that. It's like if we don't see it ourselves, it's going to be hard for us to help others see it as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, Ryan, I could actually keep you here for days talking to you about this stuff. I know that you also do some work around mindfulness. So I'm wondering if you'd be willing to come back and do another interview with us in the future around maybe some mindfulness and how we can also use that as coaches. Well, and willing to bet that you'd have lots of different things that you might be able to share. So how willing would you be? Let me just put you right on the spot here, and whether you'd be willing to come back and do an interview with us again.
I'd be happy to.
That is awesome. So I want to thank you for the time that you took out of your busy day as a dad and as the education director at VIA to join us and share this incredible wisdom about character strength.
You're very welcome, Meg. It's a pleasure talking with you. It's a good positive synergy that happens back and forth here. So I love it.
Me too. Thank you so much. I don't think I can ever get enough information around positive psychology, the research that's being done in human flourishing, and how we can apply the study of strengths to both our lives and help our clients access that information and apply it to their lives. So thank you so much to Ryan Niemiec for joining us and sharing that incredible information today. If you'd like to know more about the VIA Institute on Character, about Dr. Ryan Niemiec, or about the show, be sure to visit starcoachshow.com. Don't forget that we have an ongoing book giveaway, and you have to sign up to be in the book giveaway. So visit starcoachshow.com to do that as well. And our current book in the giveaway is Smart Match Alliances by Judy Feld. While you're on site, you might choose to give us some feedback about the show. And if you are enjoying the show, I would so appreciate a rate and review on iTunes. It will increase the visibility of the show, attract more guests to the show, and let me know how you're feeling about the show. So please take a moment and visit iTunes to give us a review. This is Meg Rentschler, thanking you for joining us this week, wishing you the very best for your coaching success. We will see you next week.